there's a lot of outside opportunities that would set my life up better, I guess, if I don't keep playing. Like there's a lot, like I could continue to play. There's other teams that have offered me to play with like me trying to like leave OXG. There's other teams that have offered me to play. Should I play? No, because now I'm in a position where I'm making double the amount of money that I was before. And if I were to leave OXG and join another team, it would probably cut my pay like in half, and I would be getting way less to continue playing. So like realistically, now that I'm 24, it's like financially and for my future, I have way more time now. I can pursue my own content, pursue things I want to do. I get to go to the event still and still be a part of the cast and analyst, and that's like amazing. And I enjoy being a part of the event. There's a lot less pressure to having to like perform.
Hello everybody and welcome. Today we are with one of the OGs of Rainbow Six, debuting Year 1 Season 1 of Pro League in 2016 and evolving his career spanning 8 years, including a dream hack victory. It's our pleasure to welcome FoxA to the Jake and Guzz show. How you going, man?
It's going well. Thanks for having me. It always confuses me when Australians say how you going. How you going?
The amount of videos,
how you going, mate?
The amount of videos I've seen on TikTok where like people are genuinely confused by that. So I apologize.
No. I like got them down by now, but yeah, like it's definitely still like kind of confusing. Like you don't know how to answer. It's like how are you doing, or like, you know, how's it going? It just like fucks with your brain.
Yeah. Make sure you're kissing the mic at it nice and close so we can hear. Yeah, that's good. Obviously, it's day one of SI. This is a video that's going to come out in ages, but Brazil, how are you enjoying it so far? Is this your first time in Brazil?
Yeah. I'd never made the other two Brazil majors. Yep. So it's my first time here. It's nice. I like it. Haven't gone too many places besides the hotel and like down the street to like a supermarket, but it's pretty nice. Driving in, I like seeing like the trees and how tropical everything is, like with the cities. And the skyscrapers are like crazy. Like I didn't realize, like, you know, for miles it's just building. Like I did not think it would be like that. It's bigger than any city I've ever seen. So
it's like a massive like metropolis.
It's actually, I was saying to you before, I think I've seen like more skyscrapers just in this eye line than I've probably ever seen.
I mean,
like,
when you think of Brazil, you probably think of favelas, right? Like that's like the general thought that you would probably have. Instead, it's like just major city of like skyscrapers.
Just like so many people jam packed.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's jump into it. Obviously, you are, as I mentioned, a real OG of Rainbow Six. You were playing it from pretty much the start. What was your, I suppose, introduction, to gaming in general? What appealed to you about Rainbow Six and what encouraged you to play it?
Well, I remember being like 13 and I saw professional Counter-Strike players, and they were playing it like back then. It was like they'd play at like a rec center. You know, they'd be playing with like for like $10,000, something like that. But like to me, like seeing that was like, wow, like I'd love to do that. And so I played a bunch of Counter-Strike hoping to go pro, but at the time I was like 13, 14, 15. So it's one of those things where like I was pretty good, but like no adult is going to want to play with like a 13-year-old kid. And I was even an IGL in CS. So like imagine a 13-year-old telling like a grown man like, you know, don't do that or something like that. So once Siege came out, I was just kind of bored of CS. It was kind of like a stale time. So I tried it, and I was just like inherently better than like everyone. I would just pick Ash, I would just run in, and I would just kill the whole team in ranked. And I was like, wow, this is really easy. Everyone's reinforcing and like trying to play smart. I'm just full sprinting in the map, and that's kind of like what got me into Siege. And I shit on this one team so bad that they were like, hey, you should try playing competitively. Like the first season of Pro League is starting tryouts, or they had like qualifiers. They were like, they're doing qualifiers. You should try playing for our team. And that kind of started the snowball of Siege.
It's going straight into the next segment. We don't even need to like
train professional.
Exactly. Well, I guess what were the expectations for you then going into the more competitive side? Because I mean, as you said, you kind of started out watching it already. So for you, this wasn't going to be new. You kind of knew what you were getting into.
Yeah, I mean, like I played CS competitively, and it wasn't anything to what the level of Siege is now, or even back then. Like we didn't have, you know, VOD review. We didn't have like dry runs. We didn't have blueprints of maps where you like coordinate everything. I mean, maybe back then it was just like too advanced. But like as soon as I got into like the Siege competition, still was pretty easy. A lot of the PC players weren't that good, and I could do the same thing, just run in, kill people. Working with like people on the Siege scene, most of the time they were like adults. Like Siege is, you know, one of those like old man kind of games, at least back then. So like I'd be teaming with dudes who are like practically like in their 30s, or like, you know, there was a team that had like these guys that were almost 40 on the team. So it was kind of a different dynamic of dealing with egos, I guess, because you're dealing with like men rather than like, you know, a 16-year-old or 18-year-old kid that's trying to be like a pro as well. So that was probably the biggest hurdle, is like dealing with people, at least on the PC scene. Once like Xbox came over, it was like way easier because those guys were like all like really cool. Yeah, they're all really
That's
cool.
this man right here, originally from Xbox.
That was me. I mean, I was on Xbox back in the day, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I guess just narrowing in then on year 1, season 2, you guys managed to finish 3rd in that season. So you did just miss out on finals. It was like top 2 back then. I think went over to Cologne or wherever it was. I mean, how much do you remember from that? And what was that experience like, perhaps just missing out? And also, I guess as well, what was the in-game experience like? Because back then you had like fucking canal and house and plane and all these like really scuffed elements of the game that were, you know, very fresh.
Yeah, honestly, I was like 16 back then. So it was like one of those things where you want to make the event, but then you're like, damn, if I make the event, like everyone's going to know I'm not 18. And so it was one of those things where obviously we were trying to win. And I think it was Orbit that just beat a different team and they just like qualified into like it. And I was like, damn, 3rd is not bad. But we found out that the only reason that we got so well was because a player on my team, his name was Kevin 3ZK. He actually was cheating. So
was that the one that like Canadian made the whole sheet about? And he was
No.
Or was that someone else?
No, that's Clever.
Okay, cool.
There was a guy named Kevin 3ZK, and he was like our like rook player, our support player. And so when Valk came out in that year, like honestly, we didn't know. Like we thought he was just had nasty calls. He wasn't the one getting kills. He was always just giving amazing information. And I was the main roamer, so I would be jumping out or spawn killing or doing stuff off of his calls. And people actually thought I was cheating. Like you guys know, like Bacon from Dark Zero.
Yeah.
His old team was like called RR, like something Revolution. I don't know what it was, but that whole team thought I was cheating. There was a bunch of people that would always like Moss check me or just like think I was cheating. And it was all off of the back of Kevin's calls that we did not know. And like there'd be times where like I remember Consulate, like OG Consulate, he was just like run out yellow and then look far right. He's like about to repel on like the bottom spiral cam. And I did that and I was like, damn.
Wait, how did you know that?
I was like, damn, that's a great call out. Like, geez. And that was against RR, and they literally were like, okay, this guy's cheating. And it was like in an official match. It was like funny. But yeah, he ended up getting banned. And then in year 1, like season 4, like the next season, or year 1, season 3, he got banned. So we got like a different player. We played like 1 Pro League match on Favela. I dropped 16 kills. We lost. And I just was like, you guys are terrible. We were only good because we had a cheater, and I'm going to leave the team. And like they got last place and got relegated out shortly after that season. So, you know, thanks, Kevin. But I mean, that guy's a different breed. To this day, he has like 8 accounts banned. So he's still going.
What was it like playing back then with the map pool the way it was? You mentioned Favela, you had Canal, you had House, Plain. Well, I mean, obviously compared to modern day Siege now, those maps are just completely, you know, meme worthy and dog shit for lack of a better word. But back in that day, what was the sentiment around those particular maps? What was I guess for you personally, your team, the community?
I think everyone liked the fan favorites like Oregon, Club, Chalet, but it was one of those things where you didn't worry about the maps so much. I guess like maps are just really small. That was like the biggest thing. Like Yacht, House, Favela, they're all very small and claustrophobic. But back then there wasn't operators that could, you know, change a game necessarily. Like the worst thing we had was like Blackbeard, you know, and Valcams outside the map. So it was like weird dynamics where, you know, the map was small, but they still were pretty fun. Like, and it was pretty fresh most of the time. Like every year there was like a new map being in Pro League. Like every map was like being like kind of added and used. So it was nice having that little bit of diversity. Now, like we've had Oregon in the map pool for like since the game came out. So I think it was pretty fun back then. Obviously those maps were somewhat very frustrating, but it comes with like Siege. Like if you're forced to learn a map or make it work, you'll make it work. And to be honest, I'd rather a map like Plain or Favela than like the new huge maps that they make every time, you know, like something like Fortress or even Nighthaven. I think is pretty huge. I mean, it's a good map, but it's pretty big.
What about Lair?
Lair, I think Lair, because I got a chance to playtest Lair, I think the fundamentals of the map and the way it flows is really good. I think the biggest issue with it is everything looks the same color and everything is very similar.
Thank you. Finally.
So that's probably the hardest thing, especially for new players, is like you're so used to contributing certain areas with a color, you know, calling out of colors. Now it's like it's all very similar. So when you first play it a couple times, it looks like everything bunches together, but it is a good map, like in my opinion.
As soon as it came out, it was the first thing, and I'm always very critical, especially with some of the newer maps that come out. I think lack a lot of distinction. Even to me, I mean, you can disagree on this one, but I think even Nighthaven Labs has a little bit of that element where it just feels like they've forgotten about the color palette and like making things very distinctive, especially with Lair more than anything. And you kind of then, if you actually go back and look at old maps, like I think it's one thing missing from some of the newer maps is a bit of flavor.
I don't agree. I think I think Nighthaven's pretty colorful. Like they got you got the green hall, you got blue stairs, garage is all like metallic. Every room's kind of different. The kitchen, like it's very easy to call which room is what room. Lair is just like everything looks like, you know, the armory room, like both rooms look military, you know, the top floor, everything is an office and a room. So that's probably the downstairs. God knows what's going on downstairs. It's like a med center, like boat. But I mean, once you give it like a good look through and you kind of understand the layout of the map, I think it's a really good map.
I think obviously with time and everyone figures those things out, and you know, I think it plays really well. That's the general sentiment that we've gotten from it. Moving away from Lair and maps in general, and a little bit about, I guess, finding success, Year 2, Season 2.
Yeah, so obviously you mentioned, right, you had the roster changes, you ditched those guys, you jumped across to Excellent, you were playing with Geo at the time. Year 2, Season 2, you win NA, so you end up qualifying for the LAN, of course. What were your expectations, I suppose, heading into that event? Because you ended up getting seeded against number 2 from Europe, the now infamous Penta. Were you guys going in actually as favorites for that particular game? And when you lost, was that a little bit disappointing?
Okay, well, the first thing that happened was, I'll save this story for after. But no, we absolutely knew it was going to be like a really hard game. We actually knew it was going to be so hard that we tried cheesing the game. So back then, if there was a hole in the floor, you couldn't plant on that hole. Yep. So we had this idea going into border that we would just shoot out the whole floor. You could do like a 360 of the outline and it would break the whole floor in the middle. So we would bring like 3-4 shotguns, shoot out the whole floor so that G2 couldn't plant. Or Penta at the time couldn't plant. But that didn't work because they would spawn up and kill our roamers in 2 seconds. So like they never went for the plant. We literally got smoked. Me included. I was like our Ashe player, so I was always the first person just being thrown in. And I think the whole series I only got 2 kills, and that was in the second map, Oregon, I think. So it's like we got smoked. I did pretty bad. We actually did so bad that Bloodbath at the time, hate that guy, but the game was over. He just casted our game. He spent the whole time saying Fox, excellence, whatever. Right after the game, I go to like whatever to say hi to Kix and him. And I go up and I'm like, yo, what's up, Bloodbath? Like, you just casted our game. And he goes, who are you? And I'm like, oh, I'm FoxA. You just casted my game. He goes, did I? And I'm like, yeah. So like that guy just had an ego through the roof for being just horrible at his job. But I mean,
Jesus,
it was a pretty fun experience. I also was 17 at the time. So to just have been there is like, wow, I can't believe it. Yeah. And it just made me want to continue being like a better player, and then I got dropped from that team for that terrible performance. So it happens. Changed my whole play style. I became like trying to be like a flex player, a leader, and so I think it helped me in the long run.
Yeah. Anything to add
from me?
No. Yeah.
I know of Bloodbath.
We don't have to talk about this,
but I just find that story very interesting because the irony is that I don't really know him. So I guess you won in the end.
Yeah, I mean, that guy's like a...
What does he do now? I don't even know.
I think he's a scuba diver instructor or something, right?
Fuck.
Something like that. I couldn't tell you. I mean, there's a good reason why he's not like involved anymore. But like, yeah, it was just kind of funny how that guy like was just not there.
I find that's just very surprising to me.
He just like casted the game and then like just doesn't like just in one year out the other. I mean,
yeah. That's not a good experience, especially as a 17-year-old, major event. You want to obviously introduce yourself, and you get that kind of that's fucked. Yeah. Anyway,
Kix was super nice. He knew who I was, so that was nice to see him.
Breakthrough victory, DreamHack Montreal 2018. Obviously, I guess you took some learnings from that particular loss. What was it like playing for Cloud9? And I guess that particular event in general for you individually, coming from now having a couple of years of experience and culminating with this particular result.
Honestly, that event, like, we played so good that, like, it was just very unexpected. Like, I don't think anybody on our team expected us to win, or anybody in general expected us to win, because at the time, I think Cloud9, we were like 6th place in the NAL. And so, or like that version of like the NA, like we were not good like compared to some of the other teams. And then when we got there, it was kind of just one of those things where everything was firing on all cylinders. We went undefeated. We didn't drop a map the whole tournament, which is kind of crazy to think about now. And obviously at the time we had like some issues with the roster of like who we wanted to replace, who we wanted to pick up. So I guess it was just kind of like flying high on vibes, because before that we were on Beast Coast. We beat CLG, qualified into Pro League, picked up Laxing. And then through there, we kind of like Cloud9 was like, oh, we want to buy you out from Beast Coast. We became Cloud9. And then we were just kind of like living high. Like everything was like a win. And even though we had some like rough, like in season, like in the NAL issues, we had like 2 forfeit wins. Like it was pretty bad. When we got to that event, it was kind of just like everything like lined up. Everything just went perfect. And yeah, when we won, it just, I don't know, it didn't even feel like we really won, to be honest. So.
And I guess the really cool thing about winning that event back in that old format, of course, with the minors, that qualified you for Six Invitational 2019, which was your first time qualifying for that, prestigious event, obviously off the back of SI 2018, such a huge event. What did that mean to you personally? And was there, any pressure or expectation heading into that event, or were you very much taking it just game by game?
Well, I think I just tried taking it game by game. I mean, the Invitational back then was always in Montreal. Montreal's like my hometown, and I actually casted an analyst at SI 2018, which was like so unexpected, like last minute, the week of, like, hey, our analyst fell out, can you come like work? And I was like, holy shit, yeah, I guess. So it was pretty cool, because on the one side I got to see how the team's experience, how they practiced, how the event was, and so it was nice to be on the other side of it. And I think at the time we were under Reciprocity. We became Reciprocity. So that was a pretty good experience. At that moment, we had Skies on our team. And so I think it was pretty good. I think that was a big turning point for us, because we actually played EG in the quarterfinals. No one expected us to get that far. We were actually doing really bad in our group. We were about to lose to NIP. We lost the first map. We were down something like 6, or at the time, I think we won at 6. So we were down 5-2 or something. And like Skies took this timeout, and he was like, do you guys want to go home? Like, is that why you're like, you guys all fucking suck? Like, you guys are like wasting our time. Like, we flew all the way here and you guys want to go home. And like something like clicked in all of us. We came back, won the second map, won the third map, beat NIP, played against FaZe, beat them 2-0, like made it out of our group. And then we played the quarterfinals against EG. And at the time, EG was like the best team in NA. So to us, it was kind of like a turning tides moment where we like are now the new NA team, and like we're de-ranking them. And so we played them. It was an insane game. Went to Coastline, which obviously a lot of people know Lax loves, like purple tarp on Coastline. We won. Like it was me, Lax, Skies for the most part. BDG, it was like a great moment. And then we played G2 again, and map 1 was kind of close, but I think some of the players on my team had an issue, like just like they had a mental like block and like struggled against them, so we lost that. But to say we got top 4 and like be the next, like the new best NA team was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, right, that you mentioned that you're so close to being knocked out of the event, or losing a match so early on, and then you've been able to regain that momentum. And I think taking down EG was just such a insane moment in the tournament because of their stature. Obviously, you mentioned there that, G2, you had the mental block. Obviously, that was something you couldn't overcome. Were there any other sort of main takeaways from that event that you're able to then take back into Pro League to try and continue to grind and improve in the hopes of then maybe returning and then being able to take down G2?
Yeah, I guess just like replace like Mark and Retro. Like that, honestly, that was like the biggest thing. Like I remember we were playing against G2. It was on Clubhouse, and like every round was like boom, 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 like one team. Like so, it was really close, and that map really went down to the wire. But after that map, like I'm not gonna lie, Mark had a terrible event. No offense to Mark, I love that guy. But against EG, right? It was a map 3, we won, and I said it was me, Lax, and Skies. The whole best of 3 series, Mark had 8 kills or 6 kills. In a best of 3, 6 kills. It was 6 kills in a best of 3. Imagine that. Like that is crazy. Like, you know, and we ended up winning, which that is even the more crazier part. So me, Lax, and Skies, I think dropped like, I think it was like 40 kills like in the whole best of 3. Like I had like 48, Lax had 46, Skies had like 38. So like, or something like that. So yeah, when we played G2, I think it was just a big like, you know, team diff. And so, but we knew like we had the potential to be good, obviously, if we could just get everybody firing on all cylinders. And that was kind of our game plan. But then when we got to Japan, Tokoname, like we didn't win that major. And I think like that was Sky's last straw. And he was like, I can't deal with like, you know, not everybody on the team being like nasty. And he wanted a more structured team. So that's why he left to DZ. And that like was just a whole nother thing, you know?
Fast forward to 2021 and the North American League comes around and you get the opportunity to play on LAN quite regularly over in Las Vegas. What was that experience like for you?
I think it's like a dream come true. Like I, from a young age, was a big fan of the whole esports lifestyle, being in a team house, playing at events, being with your teammates. And up until that point, we already were in Vegas with Rogue, and then shortly after LG, those teams were there. We were there in a house with Reciprocity. And so not even the competing part, just the like brotherhood aspect and the life we lived as like gamers, being 18 to 20, even like some guys were older, like all being so close together, all being there, like practicing, hanging out. Like it was just a dream come true to think that we got to live like that for, you know, 3, 4, 5 years. It was just phenomenal, like an amazing experience. And when the LAN League came around, obviously that just added to the dream. All the teams had to live there. It was a good time. Like everybody was able to hang out at a moment's notice. And playing on stage at first was definitely very hyped because you think about it, you're like, wow, I'm going to play on a stage every day. Like it's really like everything's going in the right direction. But obviously the HyperX Arena had some issues. The stage was kind of small and claustrophobic and difficult to play on. HyperX was also the arena itself was very like restricting on what we could do, what everyone could do. Like you couldn't change the chairs, you couldn't change the monitors much. And so everyone kind of did what they could with what they had. But I know a lot of people had issues with the computers. Like they weren't like the best PCs that you could run, you know, 240 hertz or anything like that. So it was kind of ups and downs. But for the most part, it was a great experience. And besides the video game playing, it was amazing to just be in Vegas with so many of my friends and being able to like hang out with them every day.
In terms of the game and the tournament experience itself, obviously a lot of that period on LAN coincided with COVID, unfortunately, and a part of that meant that international events were put on hold. Did that have an impact on you personally and perhaps your motivation to continue to improve and grind the game, knowing that those opportunities wouldn't be available for a you know, prolonged period of time?
Yeah, it definitely sucked because during that time period, we also were like the like honorary 4th place team, like OXG with BioSlash, Lax, and Vert. Like we just would always make the events, like the online tournaments. Yeah, we'd make the major. We'd play so good in the season. We'd get 1st or 2nd. And then as soon as the tournament would come around, I don't know if it was pressure or what it was, but we could just never win or like cross that boundary. And so it became very depressing. It was like we would practice every day. The team environment like wasn't that great too. Like we went from being all happy and like having fun, getting like hanging out every day with like Skies, Mark, Retro, to now this team was very like, who's the alpha kind of. Like it was really weird. Like every day in practice there was an argument, there was always a fight. Like it was always like a hostile takeover. Which way are we going to play? Are we going to play this? Or are we going to play this style? And so even though we were doing well and making it close, it was still very frustrating, and it was mentally draining because it's like you're in the house with people who are fighting every day. So that's when Valorant came out. I actually grinded a lot of Valorant, and there was like a moment where I was like, I could just quit everything right now and go join a Valorant team. And I had an opportunity to, but like it was like, do I want to leave how established I am on this team and like in this industry to go risk Valorant? And obviously I chose not to do that. And so it was a good decision because there's not many people from the first year of Val that are like still pros to this day. So, you know, it's good that I decided to stay, but it was very like mentally taxing for sure.
It's interesting you say that because I think that's something that probably 90% of esports shooter game pros probably had that thought, had that option, especially when Valorant first came out, because it really was this sort of blank canvas. I know you can compare it to Counter-Strike, and obviously a lot of tier 2 CS players kind of went to Val, and I think like you said, now when you kind of look at where it's gotten to, a lot of those first year refugee kind of players that came from Overwatch, Fortnite, CS, Siege, not really around anymore, didn't quite make it all the way. But you know, very interesting to hear that obviously you yourself were kind of in that camp and elected to stay in Siege. And I think that probably worked out for the better. Would you agree?
Yeah, I'd like to think so. I mean, I feel like it's my like whole career now, and now I have like a future more than just being like a pro player. So to me, I think it was like a win-win. And with a game like Val, like maybe I would have had fun for that year, but then it's like after that, it's like then what, you know?
Yeah.
So
the longevity,
the safer
how
bet.
to turn your career into something even after playing.
So the impact of COVID obviously over time continued to be reduced, and so LAN events for Rainbow Six and other esports returned. One of those big ones, especially for the North American region, was Charlotte, a huge event. DZ ultimately winning it. Astralis doing an amazing job. The team that knocked you out. That's why you finished in 3rd position. Were you expecting North America to be so incredibly strong at that event, and what do you think you could pin that down to?
Honestly, I think we were very fortunate that like W7M back then had visa issues, so like their whole roster wasn't able to make it, and I think maybe it was NIP as well. So 2 of the Brazilian teams like weren't able to like make it like with their full roster. That being said, I think that was like the first NA event, like a real NA event, like besides Atlantic City and like the Montreal events. It was the first America like tournament, I think.
Oh, it was Raleigh.
That's true. That's true.
Did you attend Raleigh?
No, we didn't make it. That is true. There was Raleigh. I don't know. I think it was just like everyone was really like firing on all cylinders. Every team from NA felt good. Like Astralis was like, that 3rd place, 4th place team. DZ was kind of like we were, I think at the time, the best team in NA. And then every team was so close to us. Like it really was like who can take it based on the day. And so I didn't expect all of like the NA teams to like, I guess, make it to the top. But it definitely was like a cool experience, I guess, to, at least somebody from our region's going to win. So yeah, I don't know. I think DZ deserved it because I think they beat Liquid, which was probably like going to be the hardest game for like anybody there, was beating Liquid. So the fact that they did that and then won, that's pretty good.
Six Invitational 2023. You guys finished 3rd, which is a really strong and really solid result. But where were you at, and maybe where were you and your team at after that event mentally?
It was kind of one of those things where there wasn't anything really bad with the team. It was more of like we have some like we made a big decision to replace Lax with Sweater, and like with Lax we were always very consistent, and so it was like a big thing to go from being like making majors, being like a top 8, top 4 team, to we want to make this change to be a winning team, and we thought we were doing the right decision, and we ended up, we're split. I think it was between Sweater and a couple people, I'm not too sure, but I think we decided to land on Sweater because he meshed really well with us. And so things weren't really bad in the server. Everyone definitely like listened and was on kind of the same page, but there definitely was like a lack of effort coming out from all avenues. So I think even though we did well at Invite, before Invite, we had a plan of how we wanted this, like the next couple of events to go. So it was like, we're getting rid of Lax to make a step forward to winning. And then we were going to make changes based off that. And I think we were so set on focusing on that like goal, that end goal, that we really didn't look at how we actually performed at Invite. And we didn't like take the time to really look at why we were doing well, like what it was. We were just like so set on, we're going to do this, then we're going to do this, and then we're going to go forward. And so that's why afterwards, we didn't have to drop Vert. We actually were kind of like in the middle of like most of the team wanted to drop Sweater, but we ended up deciding to drop Vert because again, we picked up Sweater for like the energy and the vibes that he had with some of the players on the team. And so that was a very difficult decision. And it was like, once we lost Vert, it was like, damn, now we have like really like no core of like, you know, the core of OXG that was making every single event. So now it was like, we were a whole new team. We have to change a lot of things. And I think that's when I realized that you lose a lot of fundamentals with players that have been around since the start, because they know how to play certain situations. They know how to position themselves to like not die, and they know how to play as a team. And I think there's a lot of new talent that's so good individually that they don't want to play as a team. So I think that was probably like the biggest issue. And I feel like at that point it was like too late, you know, to like fix it.
I suppose just honing in on the placement result itself, obviously third in 2019 at SI, then third in 2021. That's a pretty significant gap, especially in the world of Rainbow Six. When you sort of reflect back on that, are you impressed by your ability to sort of grind back up to that position? Is there maybe a bit of disappointment that you weren't able to make a grand final?
Yeah, obviously I think everyone wanted to make a grand final. I think the 2021, was that the one no, the last one was the last one we got third.
Yeah, third in 19 and then third in 23.
23. Okay, yeah, you're right. The 2023
I hope
one,
I'm right.
Yeah.
I think I'm right.
2023 is like the one that we should have definitely, like, we 7-0 W7M. We should have, and we were up like 4-2, which it could have been 5-1 on Clubhouse on the last map with W7M. We should have won, and we lost due to like over peaking and getting confident early. No, I wouldn't say like I'm impressed with like our climb. I know we could always do it. We did get trolled a lot of the time. So after 2019, unfortunately, we kind of got stuck with Nyx. And so at 2020 invite before COVID, in groups, we got grouped. Obviously, we lost the BDS, we lost the G2, which we definitely could have beaten both of them. Me and Vert were in the top 5 players statistically in the whole event, and Nyx and Retro were in the bottom 5 players for the whole event. So we kind of got trolled by Nyx specifically, and he caused a lot of issues on our team on the back end. And then the next event, the next invite, which was invite because of COVID, it was in Sweden. We had Yog and Kino, but at the time, Yog and Kino beforehand have already made the decision to be joining XSET. So to them, it was like, not to say that they didn't try, they definitely tried, but it was one of those things where it's like, who cares? You know what I'm saying? Like, at the end of the day, I'm going to a different team. Like, I'll play, I'm gonna have some fun. So knowing that now, we definitely kind of like took practice like very lightly. It was kind of like, oh yeah, like we didn't really care as much as we could have cared. Again, those guys definitely tried and they definitely played well too, but it was just a matter of like, you know, their heart was in like another place, which, you know, I respect that. So
as we kind of, I guess, wind down your career, we get, after SI 2023, a string of results of tournaments that clearly don't go your way. So this was 5th in stage 1, then into 3rd LCQ, bit of a fail, and then stage 2, 6th and 4th. What were the biggest, I guess, impacts as to the reason why those performances happened? And I guess off the back of those performances, is that when the thought of retiring came into your mind?
That's a good question. I mean, I think the biggest change, the biggest indicator was maybe a lack of consistent like results. Like, I think the biggest thing was, I mean, obviously it's a lack of consistent results. I think the biggest thing was just the fundamentals and like the structure, like the hierarchy, I guess is the word I could use, of like the team like shifted. And so I felt like from when we got rid of Bio to like up until I guess like we lost Kino and Yog, I felt like the way we ran the team was always very like similar. It was just trying to slot these 2 players like to find the right 2. That's like the history of our team, is always finding the right 2 players. With Skies and Lex, it was finding the 2 players. Then Skies left and we got Vert, and then it was finding 2 players. And then we went on that journey until like eventually like we got rid of Lax and Vert, and it was finding those now new 2 players. So it's always been that issue of finding a player, like the 2 players that stick with the team. And honestly, I'd say the biggest thing is our coach Hopes was an amazing coach, and I think he really understood the game. And I think at a certain point after COVID, he decided to focus, like obviously he was getting married, he was starting his real life, and he wanted to pursue other things than gaming. And I think once he left, the structure and fundamentals of the team shifted to where it was like now, like, you know, new people can come in, new people can take that hierarchy. There's no like voice of reason to be like, okay, that's stupid, that's smart, this is what we should do, this is what we shouldn't do. It was kind of just like everyone's throwing stuff up in the air, and no one wanted to, I guess, be like, okay, yeah, you'll be like the guy that takes charge, or we'll listen to you, let's all listen to this guy. Kind of was always switching, I guess, at that point. And so that was like the biggest thing with consistency, is like, you know, things will go well until one game or one like week it doesn't, and then it's like, okay, we got to switch it. And now, oh, this person's stuff starts going well, and then 1 week bad happens or something like that, and it's like, okay, well, we got to switch it. And there was never enough time to establish a new style, I guess.
As Jake sort of mentioned there a little bit, retirement now sort of on the horizon for you. It's probably going to be official by the time that this episode goes out. Obviously, in the past, you had adversity and you're able to fight your way back. Is this last year or so, is that different in comparison to those, where you're at the point now where you're like, it's not really worth trying to improve, or you don't want to? Is that the mindset behind the decision?
Well, I think the biggest thing is not to like flex, but I think there's a lot of outside opportunities that would set my life up better, I guess, if I don't keep playing. Like there's a lot, like I could continue to play. There's other teams that have offered me to play, with like me trying to like leave OXG. There's other teams that have offered him to play. Should I play? No, because now I'm in a position where I'm making double the amount of money that I was before. And if I were to leave OXG and join another team, it would probably cut my pay like in half, and I would be getting way less to continue playing. So like realistically, now that I'm 24, it's like financially and for my future, I have way more time now. I can pursue my own content, pursue things I want to do. I get to go to the event still and still be a part of the cast and analyst, and that's like amazing. And I enjoy being a part of the event. There's a lot less pressure to having to like perform and kind of being that leader of a team, where it's like, you know, it's a very big burden to be an IGL and be like a leader of a team, because you do, I want to say like 90% of the heavy lifting on the back end, and you get zero of the glory. Because if someone's going to go nuts and get like go 10 kills, 15 kills, 20 kills, you're going to be like, wow, that guy's insane. You're not going to be like, wow, think about all the practice they put in. Think about all of the strats, like who made the strats, how like they got to that point, who was like beating it in their head not to peak this, not to peak that, to like, you know, really focus on it. So not to say that my team was only good because of me, because that's like the farthest from the truth, but it's definitely one of those things where things are better going forward. I love playing. I, you know, don't think I'd ever risk the opportunities I have now to like go back to playing. But it is like a cool theory to, I guess, like think about. So yeah, this whole last year, like it didn't feel like the team I was under was really my team anymore. Not to say that I had ownership of the team, but it's one of those things where I ran the team a specific way for a long time, and now a lot of things are changing, and I tried to change with it, and I don't think I fit into what the new ecosystem of the team wants or like is looking to go forward. So I think it's like a mutually beneficial, because they get to try what they want to try. I get to pursue a different avenue in life, and you know, I hope the team still does well, because like I put so much time into getting them to this point and helping them get here. I hope they can continue to bring it to new heights.
So obviously our job, myself and Guzz, gets scrutinized very heavily when it comes to commentary, both in-game casters and also those that are on the desk and what they do. You know, typically it'll be the case that people will look at us and be like, well, they don't play the game, so they don't know the game, etc. And they're not necessarily wrong in a lot of aspects, because we can never have the knowledge that ex-pros have. So what is it that ex-pros can bring in terms of that unique experience to the desk role, to the caster role, that obviously us plebs can't bring? What is it that you bring? What is it that Fabian brings? What is it Pengu brings?
Yeah.
All of these things. for Rainbow Six Siege, which I think as a game in terms of esports has done a significant job at getting ex-pros into the broadcast team. I do PUBG as my other title, and that's one thing they've really lacked, is really utilizing pros, ex-pros, bringing them into the broadcast. And so the broadcast itself has become a little bit stale, where it's just these, you know, commentators who have been doing it for the last 4 or 5 years, and you haven't quite got that ex-pro insight. So in terms of now for yourself being able to start to do these events, you mentioned obviously you did 2018 and et cetera, but what is it about ex-pros and what they can bring to the broadcast?
Yeah, I think you guys just suck. No, I'm kidding. I think
we'll cut that out.
I think like the biggest thing is just explaining the game on a simplistic level and being able to do it in a way where you 100% know what's going on. So you guys could see something happen, but no offense, but you may not know why it happened, what led to that happening, what led to this like happening. Obviously there's a lot of like simplicities in the game, and you could just be like, wow, that guy got kills, or that guy did this. But I think as a pro, you're so used to you're conditioned to see things differently, where it's like, well, he was only able to do that because there was a drone in front of him. He was only able to do that because his teammate got the guy that was covering his position. And so I think it's just easier to say those things when you 100% know that's what happened. Whereas if you're just being an entertainer, which there's no problem with you guys casting, because you guys are meant to be entertainers. You're meant to talk about the game to get people engaged. I try to think of it as like when you turn the radio on and you listen to like a baseball game or a hockey game, you're listening to the person. Like they're just supposed to be telling you what you're seeing on the screen. They're not supposed to be talking about like why, what, when, where, how. Like, you know, it's just supposed to be about what you're seeing to make it entertaining. And so as a pro, I think that's where like the analyst desk and even having pros on the cast makes things better, because you can really explain it to like a minute detail of like, okay, well, they mainly won this round because of this. And I think there's a lot of people, especially in a game like Siege, that love that type of content, because it's not just like a game that you can watch and just regurgitate what you're seeing on the screen, because you could say what's going on the screen and it makes no fucking sense because so many things are happening at once. So when you have someone that can be like, yeah, with all that shit you just saw on your screen, this is actually what won the round. This was the thing, the pivotal turning point. So yeah, I don't know. I guess Siege is just lucky we have like a lot of good speakers that are ex-pros too.
That's I think the biggest thing, right? Because you can have the knowledge, but have you got the ability to convey that either on desk or obviously in cast? Did you have a preference in your role? Like, did you kind of look at it as like whether you want to go to the analyst desk or you want to be in the cast as a color, or even maybe
honestly,
even as a play-by-play?
You tri-casted with Devin Mandy, right? What was that like?
That was a great time. They were so nice. I loved working with them because it was kind of like we were like a symphony in a way. Like everything was perfect. When the play-by-play casting needed to come, Dev was there. He like would indicate when he wanted to jump in and do his play-by-play. And then once the thing ended, Mandy was very good at being that middle connection, because as like everyone listening knows, I'm very monotone, which I'm trying to work on. But she was that very good middle ground of taking Dev's energy and being able to like compress it or like use it, and then eventually it goes into like the boring shit, which is the prep phase or the drone phase or anything like that. And that's where I can shine and make that stuff interesting, because I can talk about what happened in the round before, what these little drones, where they're going, what it's going to look like for the round. It makes it so much of that dead air. It makes it so interesting. And so I thought it was a really good time. I hope they do try cast more in the future. If I could choose what I'd want to do, I'd love to be a caster. I mean, I think I love talking, and I think there's so much that I can say about these rounds or these maps that would be able to help and encourage new players or give them some clarity. And on the desk, it's still very difficult work, and it's still amazing to be a part of it, but it's a lot more compressed. You have to really simplify a whole game into a matter of like 20, 30 seconds. So
that might be the best elevator pitch for tri-casting I've ever heard. Yeah, I think that's perfect. I completely agree with all those points. And I think tri-casting should probably be the standard in Siege, because as you mentioned, all the roles work really nicely.
It makes it so fucking easy as well, because all you have to do is your conventional pair, you know, play-by-play, color, guy who likes to know what he's talking about, and then just chuck in an ex-pro, good to go.
Yeah, that's probably like the most difficult thing for the casual viewers. They don't like, not many of them love listening that banter, like the back and forth banter between like just two casters that don't maybe know the game as highly of a level, but they have good chemistry. Like you can listen to it 1 round, 2 rounds, 3 rounds, but if you've got a best of 3 and every map's going to OT, and it's like every round it's like you're not talking about what's going on really, like, or what the deciding factors was. It's just a lot of like, yeah, like, you know, next round, you know? So I think having just that expertise there, or even just having like Parker and Pengu having more pros a part of these casting duos, makes a lot of that dead air great, while also having that banter involved.
And also, you know, for someone who, like, I'm a play-by-play, so my knowledge of the game is beyond fucking -10, right? Like, it's awful. But like, if you then put me in that TriCast environment, I don't need to do any of that analysis because I'm just not required, basically, until the last 30 seconds when I can go super shouty mode and be super entertaining, which is my job. That's what I like to say that I'm good at. So I think that it works well in terms of all elements for all parties involved. The only issue is obviously when it comes to the cost, there's an extra person on the broadcast, and that's an extra person you got to pay.
Exactly. And also, like, it definitely, in a way, I feel like it could also extend the length of some casts. Like right now we have groups going on, so imagine every cast being like 3 casters and then the analyst desk and then back to 3 casters. Like, it definitely could be done, but I could see it being saved for like important games, like really like down to the wire games or main stage games. And like, you know, I was blessed to even get a chance to do a quarterfinal in Atlanta, you know, just coming out the gate, like everyone's taking a chance on me, and then all of a sudden I'm doing a official TriCast with Devin Mandy for like a main stage game. Like, that's like pretty big. And then the fact that Dev ended up going on and getting the finals to TriCast too, like, that's just like incredible that even happened. So
yeah, we'll wrap this up with basically what's next in terms of your future, both in and out of Siege as well. What's something that's on the horizon for you?
Well, I'm doing a lot more of like my individual like content and like branding, and then I'm also working a lot more with OXG on other esports and being involved with the other teams, not just Rainbow Six, while also hopefully going to all the events as an analyst, hopefully maybe a caster one day, but that's not up to me. You know, and just still being involved with Siege and like the competition, because I think I have a lot I can say about the game, and I think I'm able to do it, which not many ex-pro players can. And so a lot of Siege, a lot of other games and expanding, and just a lot of free time to just better myself. I mean, I've been trying to just be a lot more healthier, and like now I'm getting older, so I'm really feeling like the negative side effects of being a pro, you know, having like back pain, having no social life. Those are definitely like the hardest things that I'm trying to sort out. So there's a lot of things that I'm doing. I just moved to Los Angeles, so I have a lot of things in the works that don't have to do with gaming, like, you know, modeling or acting. So, you know, everyone says that they got stuff going on, but until something happens, you know, that's just like a brief look at some of the things I'm doing.
Awesome. I think we can probably get you to wrap this one up, guys.
I'm wrapping it up.
Well, it's about time you do something here on the Jake and Guzz show.
Fucking hell, put me on the spot. Well, Fox, it was a pleasure having you on. Honestly, really well spoken. Really enjoyed having you. You've been around forever now, so it's awesome that you're still here, because that cannot be said about many people in Rainbow Six and esports in general. So honestly, real pleasure to have you on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been cooking against this window. I can't lie. It's really hot. So
well, we will do a couple minutes over on Patreon, so you guys can go check that out. We've got a couple of questions from Fox from you guys.
Don't forget the poster.
Oh yeah, and we have this wonderful poster that we're gonna get Fox to sign. We'll do it after anyway. It's already gonna be given away by the time this episode goes live, but there it is. Yeah, Fox, thank you so much. We'll wrap this one up, and we'll see you guys over on Patreon.
Bye bye.